Hello everyone, welcome to the Ahdurin region. I'm your host Ahdurin himself. Welcome back to the Build and Battle Ultimate Challenge with only 3 things left on our list here. We are winding down this series, kind of. You see, the good news is, at least for this series, is that 4 more entries will be added into the wheel starting next week, actually, as I believe at the end of this week, Perfect Order gets added to Pokemon TCG Live, meaning that we can actually use those build and battle kits. If you've been participating in the build and battle events, let me know how that's going for you. I've done a couple already. I've really enjoyed it. There are a lot of interesting cards there that are, I think, going to quietly make some noise in the TCG. You might have heard me talk about them in a previous video. Plug, promote, etc. I think without further ado, we can go into the wheel here. We'll spin it and see what we've got here. I know a little bit about 2 of these, and this is one of them, as it looks like, barring anything dramatic happening, we're going to finish off Phantasmal Flames here with the Zacian Build and Battle deck. Let's take a look at what exactly Zacian is about. Alrighty, so here we are with the Zacian deck. Pop that ad away. Here we are with the Zacian deck. I remember this feels like one of those decks I remember in the build and battle setting. This is one of those decks that I think is a lot better in the build and battle format than in reality, so I'm hoping our Phantasmal Flames packs will be able to help us out here. The Zacian deck consists of 3 Zacian, which is a basic Pokemon. We'll talk a little bit about it in a second. I'm going to struggle with the name here. I've said Milcery. I have no idea if it's supposed to be Milcery. I think that's kind of what it's supposed to be, but Milcery feels right to me for some reason. Nevertheless, 4 Milcery, 4 Alcremie, and then 1 Mimikyu as well, along with a pretty good supporter list here. 3 Sleuth's Determination, 2 Brock Scouting, 2 Drayton, and 2 Hilda, along with an Iris Fighting Spirit. In fact, let me pop over. I'm going to pop that open because Iris is a relatively new card compared to what we've normally dealt with. On the item side, we've got 2 Ultra Balls, 2 Wondrous Patches. That's actually really important. Let me pop that open as well. I've just shown the Pokemon, actually. 1 Switch, and then 13 Basic Energies. That feels like a lot. You'll see if it is a lot or not. So, let's talk about the Pokemon in particular. We can start off with Zacian here, 130 HP. It's a basic Pokemon with 2 energies, a Psychic and a something else, and the attack is Limit Break, 50 damage regularly, but if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, this attack does 90 more damage, so it is kind of like a comeback mechanic in a way, which can jump up to 140 damage for 2 energies. Not terrible. Like I said, in the build and battle format, it's pretty easy to have that done because all you have to do is effectively sack 1 Pokemon, and boom, Zacian's able to do massive damage, especially in a build and battle format where Zacian is pretty strong, all things considered. We've got Milcery here as well, 50 HP, Draining Kiss, which is a 10 damage, heal 10 damage sort of thing, but the main reason why you've got Milcery is for the Alcremie here. 90 HP, stage 1, its Sweet Circle attack does 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play, meaning that this can max out at 120 damage for each Pokemon, or for all the Pokemon in play, which is a pretty good attack, especially for 1 Psychic Energy. It does require you to fill up your entire field, which has some pros and cons depending on the deck you're playing, but that's pretty good, I think, all things considered, especially for it being a Stage 1 Pokemon. Finally, it comes with 1 Mimikyu, which isn't terrible. Mimikyu's pretty good. Main reason why you'll use Mimikyu is for Call for Family, searching for any basic Pokemon, put it on the bench. Regardless of circumstance, that's good not only for searching for Zacians or Milcerys, but, Pokemon EXs if we want to throw those into our deck list. When it comes to the items and supporters, I want to talk about the ones that I am not as familiar with, and I'm wondering if you are as well. The first one, Iris' Fighting Spirit from Journey Together. If you discard a card from your hand, you draw until you have 6. That's pretty good. That's all things considered. It does require a discard, but that's not the worst thing in the world considering Wondrous Patch here. An item card that allows you to attach a basic Psychic Energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. A way of getting extra Psychic Energies on the field is definitely helpful, and because you can discard anything from Iris' Fighting Spirit, you could discard a card to like a Psychic Energy to put it in the discard pile, thus being able to make Wondrous Patch work. Pretty interesting. I do think this is a very low-powered deck, all things considered, especially with Zacian here, maxing out only at 140 damage, so I'm wondering in Phantasmal Flames what we can add in to make it good there. The 2 retreat cost isn't ideal, but we do run a lot of energy, so throwing them in the discard pile is not the worst thing in the world. But we might want to take a look into Phantasmal Flames and get a deeper dive into how exactly we can break this down. So, I think without further ado, we can jump into the building section. Alrighty, it is time for us to build our deck. We've got everything set up here to start off as usual. For those of you that are new, we have a 30-minute clock where we get to build our decks. Instead of having 4 open packs, though, we get to customize our packs using anything in the set. So, 30 minutes will be on the clock. Let me just make my clock here itself. And then, from there, we'll jump into the actual building of the deck, finding a strategy and all that sort of stuff. So, time will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. And as usual, I'm going to build the deck, so I will be right back. Alrighty, so here we are. Now, the fun thing about Phantasmal Flames, at least for me, so first things first, hello, here's the deck. We've got it set up basically how the build and battle box is. And now the fun thing about Phantasmal Flames, as I was saying previously, is that I've actually completed the set, which means I can simply go here and go to Phantasmal Flames, and boom, we got it here. This is everything. Let's just sort by type, and that'll get you roughly to the order of things. So, how do I want to do this is the question. I'm going to be honest, Zacian, probably not ideal here in terms of Pokemon that are actually able to be used. Well, this is intriguing. I do want to try to make a different strategy than I've done in the past. So, I have done Phantasmal Flames before, and I did a Lopunny-esque strategy in a previous episode, so I kind of want to avoid that if I can. And Diancie feels fun to me. I think Diancie could be intriguing here. Mismagius is intriguing as well. You could confuse the opponent and make that real hectic. Discard up to 2 energy cards from this Pokemon, and its attack does 120 for each card you discard. Let's see. That's intriguing. And we do have a way of getting extra energies by using Wondrous Patch, which we can definitely add in. I wonder if we built a Diancie strategy. That's not too bad. If there's a way that we can get extra energies even more than what we've currently got, especially psychic energies, that would be intriguing. Let's see what we got here. You know, we could... Okay, I think I have an idea. It might be a little chaotic, but I do think it's intriguing. Based off of what we've got here. So, I wonder if we could do almost like a stall game in a way. So here's my idea here. We go throw in a couple Mismagius EXs, and we throw in a Mega Diancie. So my idea is we start main attacker being Mismagius. Yeah, actually, well, hold on. I want to get energies out of the deck. Cresselia can do that. Cresselia's Swelling Light searches for 2 basic psychic energies, attach them to this guy. We can do 90 damage, which isn't too bad. But also, when Cresselia gets knocked out, that's 3 energies in the discard pile. That is solid. Let's see. We could do that, and then... So we start off ideally with Cresselia. Okay, no. We start with Cresselia. No. We start with Mimikyu. That's how I want to do. We want to start with Mimikyu. Call for family. Get Cresselia. Mimikyu gets knocked out. We go into Cresselia. Psychic energies. It gets knocked out. That's fine. The important thing is now psychic energies are there. There are 4 prizes at this point. We have Mismagius. Magius? We got this fella. That's 2 prizes left. Then we go Zacian, and then Diancie at the end. That's not terrible. Alcremie doesn't do anything in that case. It becomes like an alternative attacker. I don't dislike this. I want to, the big rule of thumb here, while it's not an official rule, it is nice, is I want to keep Zacian in there, because that's what the whole build and battle deck is about. Alcremie we don't necessarily need to keep. It is a good attacker, though, if you can fill up the bench, which this is designed to do. So, and we definitely want a lot of energies in this scenario. And then from there, we build like a confusion strategy, in a way. You know what, let me build that. Let's build that, and I'll see what that looks like. So I want to add a Mega Diancie for sure. That's gonna go here, right? Mega Diancie. And then we can add, let's go 2 Mischievous and 2 Mismagius. Sure, we can do that. Yeah, let's do that. So Mismagius EX. We got 2 of you guys, and then we'll get 2 Mischievous. Mischievous, I guess, technically. I want to add more Mimikyus as well. Mimikyu is a common, that's good. In fact, I'm going to cut a line of you guys to add 2 Mimikyus. Right, so now we have 2 Mimikyus here. 2 more Mimikyus. That's not terrible by any stretch. We've got that there. And ideally we have... I might cut another line, to be honest. Let's cut another line. That's not the worst thing in the world. We've got 3 Mimikyus, 1 Mega Diancie. I can only add 1 of the Diancies or Mismagius EX. I can't add both. That's okay. We'll add a Mega Diancie. We'll run 2. I think that's fine here. There we go. So we've got this as our setup right now. Based on the trainers here, we don't have any stage 2s. We can add the stadium. I think this is all of a sudden becoming more of a stadium-esque thing. So we can add 2 Zacian Valleys. Let's add 3? Prevent all damage counters from being placed on benched Pokemon. Alright, here's what I'm going to do, because I think stadiums are helpful here. I'm going to add 2 Zacian Valleys, and I'll add 2 battle cages. Right, doing so, we got 4 stadiums, that's big, but also, I think we can kind of flip back and forth between what we want to worry about, whether we want to keep our confusion up, or if we want to prevent damage. I think it depends on the matchup we have. And I have a spot open, or at least a couple spots open, in case we want to add more. I definitely want to add max out on these, so we'll add 2 more Wondrous Patches, maxing us out there. I am fairly certain I spelled that wrong, but I do not care. Yeah, it's O-U-S, it doesn't matter. That's fine there. Jumbo is not likely to be used because we're discarding energies and all that. Dawn's not terrible. I wonder if it matters. I kind of want to add Sacred Charm. 30 less damage for attacks from your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. That's not terrible considering how many Pokemon have abilities, and more importantly, it's bigger bulk for Diancie, which itself is going to be rather bulky. So let's add 3 of these. Sure, we'll add 3 of those in the uncommon. We'll do that. That puts us at 53, right? I wonder if there's any other Pokemon we can add in. Is there another line that we want, or anything like that? I'm wondering about Bramblecast here. Its attack is not really good. That's the thing. I want to fill my bench up with Pokemon that can actually do stuff, and Bramblecast probably won't, if I'm being honest. Oh, that actually reminds me. There is one normal Pokemon I want to add in here, and that is Smeargle. I found this really interesting. First attack, flip 3 coins, attaching the amount of basic energy up to the number of heads from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. This is a good way of potentially getting a lot of energies onto your bench as much as possible. So I will add a couple of these guys, 2 commons here. There we go. Add those 2 there. I like that. I think that's pretty good. We also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 basic Pokemon. That's great. Love that. What did I want to add here? Was there anything else I wanted to add here? Maybe another stadium line? I don't know if that's really necessary. Because we're going to have to hard draw into these or Drayton our way into them, which again, can't really do. I might just add 5 energies and call it there. We're running a lot of energies in that case. But I do want to give this a test run. 13 minutes-ish on the clock. Okay. Just to be safe, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add 5 energies here. 3, 4, 5. Actually, we could do it. Can we do regular ignition energy? No, we cannot. I think the only time... Yeah, we can only get the fancy ones, but we can't use the regular ones. That's fine. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this a test run. I can test this against the AI. Obviously not very good, but we could make it a test run anyway. So I will see you all after the test run. All right, did a test run. Not too bad. I ended up working with my Mega Diancie a lot more than I did Miss Magius, so I'm wondering if I actually cut a line there. Miss Magius did some attacks for sure. It was kind of switching back and forth, but the confusion effect didn't apply too much. Now, granted, the AI, I think, retreats a lot less than people do. So it's not the worst thing in the world. I do wonder, though, how effective it would be. It's got enough hand refresh that it's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, if we could add an extra lilies or something like that, it could be interesting. Didn't have to worry about energies much at all. I am wondering, though, if I make some slight adjustments here. What would that be, though, is my question to myself. I think what I'll do... We had a lot of energies. 18 is definitely too many. I know that for a fact. I'm going to cut... Let's see. We can cut 2 of these and throw in a couple of Dawns, I think, is not the worst thing in the world. Just so that it's a combination of finding good things and also thinning the deck a bit. So we'll go a couple of Dawns get added in here. That's not too bad. Is there anything else I want to add here? 2 of the Miss Magius line is good. 2 Mega Diancie I think is good. Pretty easy to search for these. Mimikyu, as long as you can get 1, that's good enough. Zacian wasn't doing much of an attack, and I'll be honest, I don't think Zacian will be, barring extreme circumstances. But it's not too bad. Not too bad. Smeargle's there is kind of like a bonus opportunity of being able to get the energies. Any trainers I want to add last minute? I'm assuming the answer is no to myself here. Right, like half of these don't even apply to us. Like Dark, Fire are the big ones there. We've added a couple Dawns. The stadiums are intriguing. I think the stadiums that I'm playing here are more to bounce opponent stadiums than to keep my own. Battle Cage is helpful, of course, especially against like Dragapult. But Dizzying Valley isn't the worst thing in the world. It kind of depends on how we get it set up. If we have Dizzying Valley and Miss Magius on the field at the same time, then it's pretty good. Otherwise, it's kind of just there to bounce other people's stadiums. On the outside chance that they're running something with confusion as well, that's kind of a L on our part. Yeah, Sacred Charm isn't bad. Depends on what we go against, but most Pokemon have abilities that do a big attack, so it's not the worst thing in the world. I think we're good with this. It's not the best deck, obviously, but I think it's interesting. With about 20 seconds left on the clock, I think we'll lock it in here. So, as you can see here, overall deck, 3 Zacian, 2 Alcremie, 2 Milcery, 3 Mimikyu, 2 Mega Diancie added in here, 2 Miss Magius of the line as well. Mega Diancie being the hard hitter that ideally we use at the end when we have... As our clock stops here. Ideally, we use Mega Diancie at the end when we are... when my opponent has 2 prize cards left, 1 prize card left, something like that. Ideal scenario, Mega Diancie comes out with a bunch of Psychic Energies attached to it when they have 1 prize card left. Zacian does some attacks in that 2 to 3 range if needed. Miss Magius is our early attacker, being able to draw cards, add confusion, stall things out a little bit. Alcremie, kind of a last resort attacker. Mimikyu is kind of fueling the bench here. And Smeargle's there in case we need to add energies from our discard into the field directly through that first attack. Trainers, most of these are pretty standard. The ones we added in, a bunch of Wondrous Patches because these are pretty good. One note, it does add to benched and not active. Not a huge deal if we played this ideally. Diancie just sits back, but important to note all the same. Added a few stadiums here, more to bounce opponent stadium. This can have some niche, interesting effects. Sacred Charm is helpful, especially for Diancie, just to wall up against anything with an ability. A couple Dawns in there, and then a whopping 16 energies. This is probably overkill, but we'll see how that works. So, time for the battle part here. As always, it's 3 casual, 2 competitive matchups, a point for the casuals, 2 points for the competitive. Let's see how many we can get. Future me that's doing the battling, as we show off Zacian here. Take it away. Thanks, past me. Welcome to the matchups here. Getting ready to get started with our first match as we decide to go first here. Decent hand to start off with, frankly speaking. I'll mention this here a little early, a bit of a spoiler, as it looks like we're facing Golden Go. This hand, this deck in general, is really good at getting basic Pokemon, so I felt pretty comfortable about it. There's a lot of them that we have the option to get, and all of them can generally do something, Smeargle kind of being an exception here. I got a soft spot for Golden Go. It's the first competitive deck I ever picked up. I picked up this version, I think, with Energy Pro Plus and everything. So yeah, I enjoy this. And as we put an energy on Zacian and get ready to do something on the next turn, probably Dawn or Lilies to refresh the hand and try to get something out, it kind of looks like our opponent stalled a bit. They go for Cypher Maniac to top deck something useful for them, and then they pass, which is intriguing, because Zacian is able to do 50 damage, so I go a little overkill, I'm not going to lie. All of this really wasn't needed. Limit Break, knockout, game 1 win. Not too bad. And so now we go into game number 2. Remember, it's the first 5 matchups regardless of circumstance. I played 3 casuals, 2 competitives, effectively back-to-back, as it looks like we're facing against a Charizard deck. That is significantly worse for us. Because Charizard is, especially Charizard EX from the old era, is a dark type because of the terrestrialization ability. So that'll be able to do super effective damage on us, and that's not ideal, and it causes problems. We start off with Misdreavus in the front, which is not too shabby. They've got a full docket of Pokemon that are able to get out there after the Buddy Buddy Poffin and a second Buddy Buddy Poffin, fill up the bench entirely, meaning they are 1 rare candy away from really causing some big damage to us. And Iono is intriguing. It refreshes, but that actually puts the Mismagius in our hand, which isn't too bad at all. Mismagius, I'm going to mention this now here as well, a little bit of a spoiler for future videos. I really like this card. It's a fun card, I'm not gonna lie. And you'll see the impact of it here as we evolve, attach an energy, and get ourselves prepared to do some damage. First off, the damage it deals, pretty solid. It's a 150 attack with 2 Psychic Energies. That's pretty easy to get up on the second turn, especially if you start with Misdreavus. As I go for Rock Scouting to kind of fill out the bench a little bit here, and a Battle Cage just to throw the stadium down, do some damage, knock out, draw some cards. That's the other big thing about Misdreavus and Mismagius, the fact that you're able to draw cards off of it, which is really, really fun. The main deck that I'm running right now is like a Mega Gengar, 1 prize sort of deck, and it's really cool, it's really fun, I like it. The problem with it is, though, as currently constructed, doesn't really have a lot of draw power, so it's fun to twist into this. And it's definitely fun. As they've decided to go all in, they've got the Charmeleon and Charizard now out there, ready to do some big damage at any point's notice. We've got Mega Diancie on the bench now, basically waiting for some Wondrous Patch, either through Iris or through Drayton. We've got a Zacian as well in their hand that we can place down to eventually get the Alcremie up and active with more damage based off of bench Pokemon. They drop down Mew as well, which is pretty intriguing. They're running kind of your classic Charizard deck. Again, another deck that will be lost to rotation, even though it'll exist in the expanded format. And then they go for Restart here. After doing a little bit more here, they decide to go retreat out into Charizard. And I think this was something they weren't expecting. And this is the last fun part about the Mismagius deck. The ability, if they switch out, they get confused. That can be disruptive. And so as I plan to go for something else, they decide, you know what? I'm through. Don't really feel like it. They concede. And now we are 2-0. 2-0 in casual matchups is good. We played against some decks that are certainly found on the competitive ladder, so I'm hesitantly confident about how things are going here. And now it's time for match number 3. This rare instance where we are actually going to have to mulligan ourselves. The only one mulligan, again, I'm used to like the way I constructed Golden Go in the past and mulligan 2 or 3 times. Yeah, I'm happy to take a mulligan here or there. As they start off with Audino, which I found really interesting. I did not know this card exists, but it's kind of like Mismagius in a way. Attacks and then draws until you have, I believe, 6 cards in the hand, which is pretty cool. It's a good basic Pokemon as well. 1 energy, not too bad. So we go for Brock Scouting, fill out the bench a little bit more, and then a Call for Family to be able to fill out the bench one last time, getting Mega Diancie out there. We've got Mismagius on the bench, ready to evolve into, or Misdrevius on the bench, ready to evolve into Mismagius at any point. I'm confusing them, as they decide to go for Arven here, grabbing not only Bravery Charm, but Precious Trolley, their A-Spec that they're able to use. Able to fill up the bench instantaneously. This will really kind of reveal what type of deck this is. And they go here. Looks like it's a Lily's Clefairy type of deck. That's not good for us because our deck kind of relies on us filling out our bench, and their deck also does that. The only difference is they get to take advantage of it. Which, as I bump into my table, sure, why not? We'll leave that in, is pretty intriguing. They decide to drop a card down so that they're able to get an extra card off of the draw there. De-evolution is not really going to be impactful against us. And now I got to play this carefully. Mismagius Evolution, I'm going to attach the energy there, and then Lilies to refresh, giving us a decent hand here. Put Milcery on the bench. I'm debating whether or not I want to even bother with the stadium, decide against it, and just attack for damage, seeing as Call for Family doesn't really work anymore. They evolve into Excelgor. This is intriguing. It's a 70 damage attack that A, switches out Excelgor back into the bench with somebody, and B, poisons and confuses us, meaning that we'd have to manually retreat our way out or try to figure out something there. They go for Boss's Orders after bringing up Clefairy, meaning Mismagius is here, and do some sizable damage here. Not enough to knock us out, but enough to put us in a little bit of a dangerous situation. We attach a second energy though, and then go for Drayton, adding Hilda and Smeargle to our hand. And then from here, after looking into it, how do I want to play this out? I decide, after a little bit of confusion and hesitation and confusion some more, attack. Do the 150 damage, we're going to get knocked out next turn, is my logic from here. Sure enough, after drawing a card and taking a little bit of time to make their decision, they go for an Arven. From here, able to grab any item and tool, they grab an Ultra Ball and Bravery Charm. The Earthen Vessel there, discarding an Audino to grab a couple more energies, and now they can start to really throw them down, start to get Excelgor built up in the back, which will be able to do some decent damage there as they knock out Mismagius. And for the first time, I believe, in our matches, we're a little bit behind here. I was going to this thinking I would either Hilda or Dawn for the Alcremie, but the natural draw is helpful as well. Going for Dawn, just kind of thinning out the deck a little bit, so I grab Alcremie and Zacian, evolving the second one on the bench there. Attach once, and now we can do a solid 120 damage here, which is enough to knock out, giving us 2 prize cards. And we've got a 1 prize out there, which is not too shabby. Alcremie, though. Let's talk about Alcremie, because this matchup, I think over the next couple of turns, you'll definitely see why I really like this Pokemon in this deck as well. First things first, in this particular setup, it is able to do just enough. Not only is it able to do enough damage to knock things out, but it's also able to take enough damage to not have to worry about Excelgor's issues here. You can see here the sizable damage and the impact of Excelgor, Confusion, and Poison. However, we are still able to retreat. We're not retreat locked or anything like that. So all we have to do is attach an energy, retreat out into somebody that we want. I'd go for Hilda to kind of thin the deck, grab an extra energy, and boom, we can hit right back, knocking out the Mimikyu, which is going to be really impactful for us. Mega Diancie going to be the hard hitter for this team, or at least that is the goal for it. And so, with Diancie getting some damage on the bench, and Mimikyu having some damage on the bench, and us getting a knockout, they go into Excelgor, which seems to be their main attack strategy from this point forward. And you can see there that 70 damage, even after the poison, means only does 80 damage when it comes into my turn. And so all I have to do is be able to retreat out to somebody else to do some more damage. It is just enough to be able to survive an Excelgor, and also able to do enough damage to knock out Excelgor. Fantastic in this scenario. After moving some energies around, getting some evolutions, they go for a Lily's Determination. Lively Stadium also to boost up their Pokemon on the bench there, the basic guys there. And here we are here, confused and poisoned, 80 damage. All I have to do, though, is retreat, and we've got a second Alcremie on the bench there, which is definitely potentially helpful. Bravery Charm on the Mega Diancie, just in case we end up going into Diancie. It's able to take less damage if the opponent has an ability. It doesn't really matter in this case, seeing as Latios is the only one, or Latias is the only one that has an ability that could do some damage. But we just switch out into another Alcremie and attack there, knocking out a Pokemon. We are now down to 2 prize cards remaining. They've got 2 Excelgors ready to do some sizable damage. But you can kind of see how this matchup can go here. Excelgor will eventually attack into us, getting us close, but no cigar when it comes to actual damage there. And in this case, I decide, after driving that Wondrous Patch in particular, retreat into Alcremie, attach the energy, patch up Diancie to get that ready for the inevitable Latias. Bring in. Here comes this. And one last thing I'll mention is you can kind of see how this matchup is going to go here. In the building of this deck, I talked about how the number of energies I had might have been overkill. I don't think that ended up being the case. It is kind of odd to see so many energies in a deck like this, but with the ability to discard cards through Ultra Balls or just retreating and moving things around, and the fact that we have Wondrous Patch, having so many energies was really helpful. The only thing I think, if I were to change this deck, and this is something I can't really adjust, the only thing I would really change about this deck, if I were to try to make this ultra competitive, would be to take out some energies and put in more boss orders-esque cards that require that like pull things in or do what you want, as opposed to finding something or something like that. You get what I mean. Nevertheless, after conceding, we are now 3-0 going into competitive matchups. Shout out to this coin, by the way. I found this coin really, really cool. And now we're at the competitive side of things. This is where presumably things are getting tough. For the first time, though, in my head, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Could this be a perfect run? Starting off with Mischievous and having Mismagius in the hand certainly helps there. They have Shaman. I have an idea of what this is, but I'm not 100% sure. Because there's a few Pokemon that can use Shaman. Monkey Dory comes down. I have a little bit more of an idea of what this is. They attach a Legacy energy there, refresh their hand with Lily's Determination, or Luminous Energy, not Legacy, and then Secret Box into, after discarding a few cards there, and that kind of confirms it, the discarding of the Frostlass. This is one of those spread damage-y sort of decks that I have mixed feelings about. The intellect required to run these decks is massive, but also I don't like it. I think it's the best way to describe it. Just because it feels like, you're going one step forward, 2 steps back against this. And Badoo certainly doesn't help there as it locks us out of items. The good news is, at least in our current hand, we don't need them. So we take advantage of the Artisan there, drop a Zacian, and then Brock Scouting. I'm looking for basic Pokemon to kind of fuel up the bench a little bit, which I do by grabbing his Smeargle and Mismagius. Attach the energy, and we're in a beautiful spot here, able to draw 5 cards and get the Badoo knockout. Not too bad. They go into Shaman. This is actually not bad because Shaman is coming out there specifically to bounce back using the Air Balloon, but we have the ability to confuse things that move around, which is definitely impactful as well. And I think at this point our opponent is reading that and realizing that that's the case there. Artisan is able to get a Maractus, another way of being able to do damage when a Pokemon gets knocked out. They attach the, I think it's a counterweight, meaning that it's 1 less energy to use their attacks. And the Arven is able to grab a couple things, Countercatcher to pull in Smeargle, which means that Mismagius' ability is no longer going to be impactful. And from here, they attack us eventually, locking us in with Smeargle. Little do they know, we've got Switch in the hand. And so we're able to bounce out of Smeargle back into Mismagius, which is definitely helpful there. Go for Drayton here, grabbing the Wondrous Patch and the Alcremie, which I use to immediately evolve. Wondrous Patch is not active currently, but at any point in time could be. I get rid of their Stadium because I don't want them to take advantage of it. And after moving things around there, able to knock them out, draw an extra card. We do take a little bit of recoil, so to speak, but we are 2 prizes up in a good spot here. Shaman's brought back in yet again as they drop down another Monkey Dory. I'm waiting for the moment that these Frostlass appear, just waiting patiently. They drop an de-evolution, and Lily's Determination to refresh their hand, and at this point I think it's probably coming. Artisan bounces back our Stadium, and the Pokepad here able to find them the process that they need to be able to start doing some damage around the board. Now, we don't have a lot of Pokemon with abilities, but the ones we do are the ones that are also kind of the big attackers. And as they drop down yet another Snorunt, they go for the Mega Frostlass, which is a twist I was not expecting because it does damage based off of attacks. Luckily, though, it knocks into itself, basically, meaning we have one last turn. I'm thinking at this point, get rid of your hand as much as possible. Mismagius is kind of gone after one good attack, but if we can get rid of as much of our hand as possible, that would be ideal. So attach a Charm to Diancie. I'm debating how I exactly want to play this. I go for Battle Cage to bounce out their Artisan. Again, getting rid of cards in the hand more than actually using the effect of Battle Cage. This is a 1 for 2, which is not normally good, but in this case kind of is. And I'm looking for just basically anything. I don't really have a preference here, so I just go for Zacian. And with 4 cards in the hand as opposed to, obviously going to think of playing Brox, which I do, grabbing an evolution card in particular. 4 cards in the hand means that the Mega Frostlass will not be able to knock out Diancie. And the Frostlass here, funnily enough, does not actually do damage to Diancie, which I find really cool. At this point, I'm just waiting for the inevitable strike. They go into Artisan, bouncing out the Battle Cage again, which is presumably just to help fuel them in case somebody gets knocked out. Night Stretcher into the discard, going for a Frostlass, which they use to evolve. Remember that one that they discarded earlier, they use that now. And now it's time for Adrenabrain strategies. With a Dark Energy there and a technically Dark Energy on the other Monkidori, they're able to start moving damage away from this Frostlass, going to whoever they want, and they're going for the knockout on Smeargle, taking a prize card from there. On top of that, they can always do their attack, which is likely going to knock us out, unless they hit themselves, which they do. Interesting. I unfortunately cannot knock them out, but now as damage is starting to be spread around here, we're in a little bit of an interesting situation here. Artisan going into the deck, grabbing Smeargle in this case. I'm just waiting for it to be potentially useful. Attach an energy to Diancie, and then since I don't really have any other plays, I decide just go for a retreat here. Patch into somebody, and now we can attack, knocking out, doing not only getting 3 prize cards, but also putting us in a good spot. Yeah, you didn't see that coming. I forgot I saw that coming. As you can tell, I'm doing this commentary live afterwards, and I'm trying to remember all the matches. I don't do them immediately afterwards. So I forgot about that play. Good play past me. Good job there. We have 1 prize card left. They have 5. They go into Monkidori, and the Frostlass starts to do some more damage across the board here. I'm actually curious why the Frostlass didn't work last time, but does this time. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea. If you can let me know, please let me know in the comment section down below. As Blood Moon Ursaluna comes out, and that's a problem, because Blood Moon Ursaluna can basically knock out anybody. They drop some damage down on Diancie and Mismagius, go into Blood Moon Ursaluna, which can attack us without needing any energies. Countercatcher up Mismagius as well, just trying to go for that. Earthen Vessel, discarding a Badoo to grab 2 more energies. Putting it onto Monkidori, and now they can start to move even more damage across. They go for the attack, though, knocking out Mismagius, grabbing 2 prize cards. And we're in a little bit of a pickle here. I go into Mimikyu, we're doing some damage across here, but we've got the Wondrous Patch, that's not too bad, but I don't have a second energy to put onto our Mega Diancie, and I don't have a way of bringing back Mimikyu and bringing out Mega Diancie to knock out Blood Moon Ursaluna here. And so I decide, you know what, let's just bounce the stadium, get rid of card there. We can get 2 energies. It's just a matter of how we get those 2 energies. So Hilda gets us 1, the patch can get us a second one, and now I'm trying to think, how do I play this? There's no point in really retreating because they can just knock out Ursaluna, or Ursaluna can knock out Mega Diancie next turn. I decide, you know what, we'll keep you on the bench. We have to force you to boss up or countercatcher or do something. But otherwise, they will have the win because we have 150 health left. They do 240, minus 30 as the countercatcher comes in. On Diancie, minus 30 again for the Sacred Charm, means that it's minus 60, but that's 180 total damage, which is, you know, not enough. Putting damage off of Monkidori and off of the Shaman, putting it onto the Mimikyu in the back there. And in my head, I'm thinking it's over. As they go through this, I'm fairly certain they can attack us here to do some big damage. But there's one small piece. I wonder if you guys can see it. That, as I'll reveal it now, is the secondary effect of Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is, after it attacks, it cannot attack on the next turn. Meaning, we somehow stay alive for one turn. At this point, I didn't realize this. I only realized this after the fact. But we're able to get the win here because Diancie is out there. I can just discard 2 energies, get rid of Blood Moon Ursaluna, grab our final prize card, and we are now 4-0. One more match remaining. What is that match going to be against? Is it going to be a good situation or not? Remember, we are running a Psychic deck here, meaning that we do not want to see anything like Absol or any sort of like Sharpedo. That would be bad. Who do we go against? They're using the Fusion Strike cards here. I don't know if that's a hint at anything. We just go generic because generic works. Fez doesn't mean anything. We've got Mischievous out there. We can get Mismagius at any point in time with Hilda or Brock scouting, and they go into Riolu. This is big. In my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, 5-0 is a possibility here. We go, first things first, we got a Brock scouting here. I'm going to fill up the bench a little bit, grabbing Mega Diancie and Milcery, putting them both down. This offers a few options as well for what I want to grab with Hilda. This energy, I go into Mischievous. I just kind of whack Fez on the top of the head a little bit. As Riolu on the back evolves into Mega Lucario EX. Interesting situation here. They go Fighting Gong, grab an energy, attach it to Mega Lucario EX, and Fez is just sitting there. They go Professor's Research, discarding their hand, grabbing up to 7, putting down 2 Riolus as well. They're running a very heavy Riolu count here. And I'm wondering where the Soul Rock and the Lunatones are, because that's what I usually expect here. As we evolve into Mismagius, put the second energy down and are able to do a decent amount of damage. Also drawing some cards. A very weird hand we've got here, 2 Draytons and 4 energies. Not too bad, but I mean, it's funny. There's the Lunatone. I was expecting the energy placed down on Fez to retreat into Mega Lucario, but remember, we've got Mismagius in the front. They're confused. So, there's a 50-50 shot that we can just buy a turn here. Iono to refresh the hand. Honestly, I kind of wanted that. And we get a decent hand coming out from here. I'm just waiting for them to likely go for Mega Brave and knock us out. They go for attack here, but they go for Aura Jab instead. And this is something else that I didn't remember. We're resistant to fighting. Not only are we strong against fighting, we resist fighting. Meaning that Mega Brave wouldn't be able to knock us out. So, good spot here. Attach an energy to Mega Diancie, put down the Zacian. I'm going to discard Alcremie to be able to draw 3, drop down a Pokemon on the bench. You know the deal, just kind of flood the field with stuff from my hand to be able to draw extra cards off of Mismagius' second effect there, as Mega Lucario is now not looking pretty. 300 damage on it, and it does need to attack. Mega Brave would knock us out, the Aura Jab would not. As they put another energy on a Riolu in the back there. Tails attacks themselves. Man, this would be a good time to have Monkey Dory or something. Or it'd be wild if we had like Badoo. 10 damage, knocks out Lucario. Badoo out there carrying. We go for a Sacred Charm on the Mismagius, kind of just, again, throwing stuff down. Attack, knocking out Mega Lucario. That's 3 prize cards there. We are in a decent spot here. We've got a Lily to refresh things if we need it. We honestly don't. We've got a full power Mega Diancie in the back. The hardest part at this point is just kind of forcing them to evolve here, which would help us win. Alternatively, they go into Fez for some reason. And after quite a bit of time trying to deliberate here what exactly they want to do, they eventually go into a Riolu without energies, which is intriguing. I think they're buying time. They're going to sack this Riolu to evolve, maybe the other one to Mega Lucario, or go into some other strategy. I don't really know if there are other attackers in the Mega Lucario deck besides Lucario itself, but you know, it's an interesting sort of option there. And this is they're kind of slow playing this a little bit, and they send it over my way. Well, we're in a good spot here, and this is why I was mentioning earlier, Mismagius really liked this card because it was doing a lot in these matchups here. Knocking out the Riolu there gets an extra prize card. We have a very nice looking hand here. And more deliberation here. What exactly are they going to do? And we're waiting. And we're waiting. And we wait some more. I think you know what's happening here. They are AFK, meaning we've done it. The 5-0. So let's review. So I've got to say, first off, a perfect run. That's wild. Second off, Zacian didn't really do a lot, if I'm being honest. Zacian's nice. I think it's cool, and I think it works really well in a build and battle format. Since this is not a build and battle format, however, it kind of was just there. It was very good in that one matchup. It was able to do enough damage to knock out the Gimmighoul in our matchup against Golden Go. But honestly, that was kind of more the opponent bricking than that was us actually doing a lot there. So in future Psychic deck builds, you're probably not playing Zacian. What you might be playing, though, Mega Diancie, I think obviously a lot of people are talking about Mega Diancie being intriguing. It does give a Golden Go-esque vibe of discarding cards to be able to do sizable damage, to be able to do 240. It's a wall in a way with Diamond Coat. And then on top of all of that, there are easy ways to get energies from, say, discard pile onto Mega Diancie, whether it's Wondrous Patch if the Pokemon's on the bench, or if it's the Power Glass tool, the Hourglass sort of thing. At the end of your turn, you take any energy, attach it to the Pokemon the tool is attached to. Literally a great way of being able to just grab an energy at the end of your turn, add one on your turn, next turn, you know what I mean. Very easy way of being able to just constantly do 240 damage. The underrated hero of this run, and I think a fantastic sort of situation here, I love this, Mismagius EX. Man, was this fun. I think part of that was kind of jump scaring people in a way with the ability, or just status effects in general. If it isn't poison, I feel like you don't really expect it. And confusion on an ability, fantastic. Didn't really use the stadiums too much for their intended effects. It was more just kind of to bounce stadiums or to empty the hand. So in future, pure builds of this, if I ever tried to do this, I probably wouldn't have those stadiums. I'd try to choose something else. But man, was Mismagius fun. First off, 150 is a solid damage amount, especially early on, because typically, especially if you go first and have Mischievous on the field, Mischievous, attach an energy, second turn, attach a second energy, evolve, and then you've got a 150 damage attacker that can hit Pokemon hard. You have to be playing a deck that is a basic deck with Mega Kangaskhan or something in order to not avoid it. If you're just playing any old deck, 150 is probably enough to knock it out, which is really cool. And then the bonus effect of being able to draw until you have 6 cards in your hand early on, really impactful. Because you're typically dumping things from your hand the way that this deck is built. We talked about the trainers. I know we only had one Iris. That was really fun. Also, I just realized this is Sending Heroes, but just ignore that for a second. Wondrous Patch. Great card for Psychic Pokemon in general. Unsurprisingly useful in this deck. The Sacred Charm was kind of fun. It kind of took effect a few times in that Blood Moon Ursaluna fight, for example. That one was pretty interesting. And then the other thing I want to pat myself on the back on, 16 energies. Is this overkill? Yes. Was it necessary? Probably not. I think I could have done it with like 12, but based on the circumstances of how this deck was built, having more energies was really helpful, because I didn't have to worry about the real consequence of retreating. Not only could I use the energies that were attached to Pokemon when retreating through things like Wondrous Patch, but also I could just think about being able to just draw something else through anything I've got here, like a Lilies or stuff like that. Hilda, I guess, in particular would help out there. So that ends us here. I don't know. Did my voice just crack? You know what? We won. Perfect run. Scores on the screen. You know what it is. First ever perfect run that we've done. And so, as we move on to next week's Build and Battle challenge here, we can take solace in the fact that we'll add 4 more Build and Battles to the list, because I believe Perfect Order comes out later this week on TCG Live, so looking forward to that as well. Zacian, shout out to you. While you didn't do much, I'm gonna shout you out as like the coach behind the scenes or something like that. Maybe you weren't a star player, you were the head coach guiding everyone to success, and shout out to you on that. For all of you that are watching, shout out to you. Thank you for listening, watching, and supporting in any way, shape, or form that you do. Feel free to subscribe, like the video, check out the other content that I do, whether it's the more competitive stuff or in the earlier sides of the week, or the casual/collecting stuff at the end of the week. Very excited about the videos that are coming forward, and I appreciate you. Yeah, that's a good way to end it. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, take care.